Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As the executive director and founder, it's my extreme pleasure to welcome you here for the membership preview for the 2019 DOCLANDS Documentary Film Festival. Thank you for coming. As we mentioned, we started this festival because we were just so convinced that the importance of documentaries was peaking at this point. Well, hopefully not peaking, but starting to pink and having this amazing effect, both as entertainment and in terms of social impact. The whole format of documentary filmmaking is becoming more and more creative, and we are so proud of the program we have here tonight and that we'll be showing you starting on May 3rd. And I want to have a special shout out to our programming team, Joni Cooper and Ken Jacobson. We're going to have actually 44 films from 14 different countries, and we're going to have 36 filmmakers who are going to be visiting us over those 4 days. So I hope you put all that time aside and can join us for as much as humanly possible. I also want to mention that you've probably seen some emails going out about support for DOCLANDS, since there's, even with a fledgling film festival, there are so many different expenses. We're almost at our goal. I think we have another 20% to get there. So if you like what you hear tonight, when you see the next email, please think about supporting us again. Thank you so much for that. None of this could happen, of course, without so many different people. And I'd like to give a shout out to all of our sponsors, but in particular, our four major sponsors. And that's Richard and Nancy Robbins, excuse me. Of course, how could I forget? And Genuine Article, Project 9, and Vicky Soulier. So thank you so much for that. Now I'd like to welcome our membership team. You know them, you love them. Please welcome Doreen and Alyssa.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here tonight for the member preview, and I want to thank you all for being CFI members. You are vital in making all of this possible and ensuring that CFI programs like DOCLANDS, now in its 3rd year, will continue to grow, and inspiring documentaries will continue to be seen by Bay Area audiences. So thank you. Your membership also provides support for CFI education, and over 2,000 students each year gives the opportunity to take part in free DOCLANDS education programs as well.
Also, some of the benefits of being a CFI member is that you get the lowest ticket price and you get to purchase tickets first. So tomorrow, starting at noon, tickets will go on sale for DOCLANDS for members only. That's tomorrow at noon. Also, up until 10 p.m. tonight, it's the last chance to purchase DOCLANDS early bird ticket packages. So if you haven't already bought one, it's a really good opportunity to get a ticket 6-pack or tickets to opening and closing night film and party, and it'll be for an even lower member price.
And immediately after the preview tonight, please join us for a reception and a chance to discuss the films with the programmers. Thank you.
Thank you. And as you may recall from last year, we added a very special complimentary program, and that's Environmental Youth Forum. So without further ado, I'd just like to welcome Joanne Parsant, the Director of Education for CFI.
Thanks, Mark. So yeah, just a quick overview. As Doreen mentioned, we have basically created an education program in concert with DOCLANDS, thanks to the Environmental Youth Forum that's actually now going into its 11th year. We merged the two so that we could take better advantage of some of the films that are playing at DOCLANDS, and also just all the excitement of being around that festival. So the Environmental Youth Forum runs from May 1st to the 3rd, overlapping on DOCLANDS, and we'll be featuring 11 different programs for different age groups from grade 1 all the way to grade 12, with some films from DOCLANDS and some films that we've added to the programming that covers a wide range of issues, environmental and global. And we'll be inviting over 2,000 students to come to the theater. In addition to the screenings that we're going to have here at the theater over those 3 days during school hours, we also have a really cool active cinema room in the Mark Fishkin room. We turn that into kind of an exhibit hall where we have all sorts of interactive exhibits around environmental issues that are reflected in the film. So our emphasis is very much on sort of youth engagement and activism and inspiring youth and building awareness around environmental issues. So if you have kids, know kids, want to know kids, want to get kids involved, either you're more than welcome to come talk to me. I'll be at the reception afterwards, probably pouring your wine. But obviously you can also take a look at our website on the education page. There's a whole section dedicated to our Environmental Youth Forum that lists all the programs we're offering. We're currently taking reservations for teachers. We also provide free bus transportation, so we try and make sure that there's no barrier to entry for any schools that want to participate. We welcome schools from all around the Bay Area, not just here in Marin. And we've got room in several of our films for a lot more school groups. So please spread the word if you are interested, or of course, if you're interested in supporting the program in other ways. There's a lot of information about that on our website as well. Thank you, and moving on.
Thank you, Joanne. Right now, we're going to start with a series of clips from one of our sections for DOCLANDS, The Art of Impact. Of course, these sections overlap in terms of themes, and we'll be actually covering the whole festival. For the viewers at home, I hope you'll be able to see these clips. Otherwise, you know, get a snack and come back later. Thank you.
We are here because we are making a documentary about the death of Dag Hammarskjöld.
Whatever happens, stick to your guns.
Anybody that resisted any white form of manipulation on the African continent is a threat. We were at war. Black people in South Africa were the enemy.
He asked me about what I thought about the AIDS virus.
It was the quick, non-militaristic approach.
Would you think that's really true?
You sit in with a list of names, and all of those names on that list can be verified. You sit in with a list of names, and all of those names on that list can be verified.
Turkey Ranch, buka my thumb.
Part of Jim's success is the fact that he's an iconoclast. Great scientists are creative people.
Jim's lab has a feel of being like a pirate ship.
Jim theorized that tumors have evolved to trick the immune system.
At the time, it was a crazy idea.
This constituted a real breakthrough. I knew that this is a way to cure cancer, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let that just lay around.
For the next decade, he had one goal, to get that made into a drug for cancer patients.
It was just no, place after place after place.
Many of my colleagues said, this will never work.
My mother sat on the bed and went through and held her hand while she died. And found out later that it was lymphoma. When I was first told I had prostate cancer, I was terrified because it was a week after my brother had died.
BMS was not sure they were going to take it at all.
I must admit I was apprehensive.
His experiment in this was to just keep fighting, to say, there's something here.
He's willing to do it in the face of his colleagues not necessarily believing him.
He wanted to stay on the scientists, he wanted to stay on the FDA, he wanted to stay on Bristol Myers Squibb.
I need to get it into people. I need to get it into patients.
I got a phone call from the radiologist. He goes, what did she get? All the cancer went away.
Until then, it was just a concept. She was the first patient I'd ever met.
How in the world are you supposed to adequately thank somebody that without them, you wouldn't be here?
That makes it all worthwhile.
It takes a really powerful idea combined with someone willing to push it forward to make it happen.
The number one thing I learned was how important it is just to persevere.
We knew we were changing the world.
May I ask you to step forward to receive the Nobel Prize?
Doesn't speak a word of Arabic, and he conducts his profound research from the comfort of his armchair in his home.
I'd like to talk about a very new way of investigating.
The way citizen journalism investigations are trusted is different than professional journalism. Don't believe me? Here's the evidence.
So there we see the bigger impacts here, and then there's one further.
This is James Rock 40.
They've made sure they've got wind blowing in.
Like a time machine, we can go back to the day of the MH17 shoot down on Google Earth.
The fake media tried to stop us, but I'm president and they're not.
Right now, they're winning. So we need people fighting against that.
I was one of those kids who saw no good reason to just grow up and get a car. I felt free and alive on my bike. Until the day came when my load was too much and the hill too steep. Right when I needed a little adventure and some hope.
We need to reduce our emissions by at least 70% worldwide.
My heart broke. But then, welcome to the cargo bike movement. Over the next few years, these pioneers would become my community, my collaborators, my heroes.
There's just something about being on a bike, but powering like my entire family along. I don't know what, to the grocery store. It's like nothing amazing is happening.
I just got groceries with my bike. You know, we just went and got ice cream on our bicycle. The mundane became extraordinary, and I needed that in my life, you know.
I make less than a poverty wage as a bike shop owner, but with my bike, I have a very high quality of life.
In driving a car, how many people do you see sitting on the freeway going, yes, I'm on the freeway? You know, no.
The bicycle transformed human society faster and more effectively than any other invention in human history. We're seeing the same kind of revolution again. A 19th century invention is solving 21st century problems.
I'd meet the innovators determined to bring this idea to the mainstream, whatever it took.
I never set out to do this to get rich. I set out to start a movement.
This bike was trying to present a way to place your car, and that could somehow be a net positive. Making your life harder could somehow make your life better.
It's time to ditch the family car for a bike.
My electric assist box bike gave me a new life, but the world of cargo cyclists gave me hope.
The city is too much congested. The flow of traffic is very slow, but bicycles can pass through, making transportation easier and faster.
I like the advocacy power of a good cargo bike racing. If we did it right, we could prompt some thought about including cargo bikes in emergency planning.
A lot of the remote areas around Kathmandu have been really devastated. Supplies are stuck at the airport. There's a lot of really long lines at the gas stations. We've got 4 cargo bikes at the local supermarkets trying to get supplies together for a village.
I think we just need to say, why can't I pick up my groceries by my bike? Why shouldn't I ride my bike to work? When we start asking those kind of questions, we start figuring things out, we start innovating.
I joined forces with over 100 cargo cyclists to make this crowdsourced documentary because to me, a cargo bike is the ultimate proof that less is indeed more. A heavy load can feel light, and sustainability could be a lot more fun than we think.
Well, we're just getting started here. Can you guess which clip the filmmaker is from Marin? There's no better place to start than at the beginning. So we're going to talk a little bit about opening night. The film is Runner, and it's directed by Bill Gallagher, and this is a world premiere, and it will debut right here at the Smith-Raffel Film Center on May 3rd. The subject is Gore Matting Marker, and if you read the program, you might see a different name because he has changed his name, and we believe it is to his original family name. As you may know, if you've read the note, he was originally from Sudan, now South Sudan, and his parents made a big sacrifice, and because of that sacrifice, he is alive today. He lives in the United States. He came here as a child, and he's been running from the day that he ran away from The Terrorist. He's continued to run. It's a movie that crosses all our different sections, Art of Impact, certainly Wonderlands, and even the great outdoors to some extent. It's a beautiful film, and we are so happy that he will be with us for that production, for that show. You saw the clip of Cold Case, and we're very excited about this film. It premiered at Sundance, and Mads Berger is a veteran filmmaker, documentary filmmaker. He has had great success with his other two previous films. The Ambassador played at Sundance Film Festival. He has a unique style. First of all, similarly to Michael Moore, he is in his films, but not quite as similar as one would think. I was trying to figure out how to describe him, and I'm really at a loss. He is a journalist. He is a talk show host. He is an amazingly creative person. This film will shock you. It will make you laugh and be disgusted with the human race at times, and we highly recommend it.
He's a bit like Sherlock Holmes.
With a cross with Woody Allen.
Yeah. The second trailer you saw was Kifaru, and about Sudan, the last male northern white rhino. And we're going to have incredibly special screenings because we not only have the producer and the director here, but two of the game wardens, two of the guys who you saw in the trailer there, James and Jojo, are going to be here from Kenya, so that's going to be very special. It also won the Grand Prize Jury and Audience Awards at Slamdance Film Festival this year. It's pretty special. Jim Ellison, Breakthrough, that you saw there. They changed the name. It says Breakthrough on the trailer there. They had to change it to Jim Ellison Breakthrough because there's a film out right now called Breakthrough. Not as good. This will be a California premiere, and it is a little-known story about this renegade harmonica-playing medical hero. And the producer, Jennifer Pierce, will be here for Q&A. Me again. Bellingcat. That was the very sinister-looking film, Bellingcat, Truth in a Post-Truth World, the fourth trailer that you saw. And really, it's about true-life heroes working to ensure that the truth gets out there, and these guys work day and night all around the world. We're still hoping that one of the Bellingcat community will be here with us, but it's pretty hard to get a hold of them, as you can imagine, because they work pretty stealthily. The last clip that you saw there, Motherlode, that, yes, we're quite honored to be hosting the world premiere of Motherlode by Marin director Liz Canning. And it really, that film is just filled with unbridled joy. And you could see some of that in the clip. But it really shows us how the bicycle can indeed and is changing the world. This one, if you've got the program in front of you, there's been a slight time change for this film. On Saturday, May 4th, instead of 2:30, it will be screened at 5:45 p.m. And Liz will be here along with a bunch of local folks from the biking community in Marin, as well as her two kids who are featured quite prominently in the film too.
Layla at the Bridge. This is sort of the quintessential, I think, Art of Impact film. It's a portrait of this extraordinary woman, a real firebrand, take no prisoners attitude. Her name's Layla Hadari. She's really this fearless woman who runs the only private drug treatment center in Afghanistan where opium addiction is a huge problem. And contrary to what you might think, it's not a downer. It's really an inspirational film about this incredible woman. We're thrilled to have the director with us, Elizabeth Mirzay, and to have the Bay Area premiere of it. American Factory premiered at Sundance this year. It's by the extraordinary directing team of Julia Reichert and Stephen Bogner. They were Academy Award nominated for their film The Last Truck a few years ago. In my mind, this film is like the perfect match between filmmakers and story. I mean, they know this material like the back of their hand. They live in Ohio. The film is set in Ohio at a shuttered GM plant that gets taken over by a Chinese company. It's an incredibly rich, detailed, deep story about culture clash, labor management issues, the disappearing U.S. manufacturing sector. The robots are coming, like everything you could imagine, and they justifiably won the directing award this year at Sundance. Plucked. Plucked, if you're a fan of art heist movies, you definitely want to check this out. This was the Stradivarius theft that rocked Milwaukee a few years ago. If you're a fan of movies like Three Identical Strangers or The Imposter from a few years ago, you know, it's a mystery, it's a character study, it's a fascinating film, incredibly well made. We're thrilled to have the California premiere of it, and we will have the director, Joel Van Haren, here with us as well.
And just a note that that is the film that will also have a slight time change. It was scheduled for 2:30 on Saturday, at 5:45. It is now scheduled for 2:30 on Saturday.
Los Reyes. This is a love story between two dogs, Football and Chola. Basically, that's all you need to know. But what's really great about this film is it works on multiple layers. So it's just this incredibly touching story of these two dogs, and it really is, you know, shot from the perspective of these two dogs who hang out day and night at this skate park in Santiago, Chile. But it's also about the skaters who are sort of these lost souls who come to the skate park and hang out there and, you know, have very gritty lives. And what's interesting about the filmmaking is you never see these skaters. You only hear them in voiceovers. So the filmmaking is really quite extraordinary. It's one of my favorite films of the year. It won a special jury award at IDFA, the Documentary Film Festival in Amsterdam. And the two directors, it's co-directed, are both going to be here from Chile, and they will definitely lend a great, I think, additional perspective to the film. So definitely, it's a great way to see the film here with the two directors, and we have the California premiere of it.
Pahokee, Florida is a very, very small town, and this film is very similar to the work of like Frederick Wiseman, and that's a tall order to compare it to that. And I'm not the only one who has looked at this film and thought of it in that manner. Many other reviews have as well. It premiered at Sundance. It was in the competitive section. It really is the story of 4 seniors at their high school in this very small town, and their hope really to build a life for themselves, for the most part, outside of Pahokee. The producer, Maida Lynn, lives in San Rafael, and she will be here for the screening. Now we're going to actually show some more clips. The clips are from Wonderlands, and certainly probably one of, I think, our favorite sections. So we'll be back after that series of clips. Thank you.
My first trip to Cuba was in November of 2000. My first trip to Cuba was in November of 2002.
doesn't stop.
¿Está casado? 56.
Más.
Ya que me conocen como el bailarín más grande que se puede caminar. Me llamaban últimamente el profesor Benny Moré.
Mi abuelo es bueno, trabajador, amable, buena gente y me quiere y yo también lo quiero a él.
小时候就知道我父亲是个特别棒的艺术家，我就很渴望成为像父亲那样特别强大的男人。直到前段时间，我突然意识到父亲已经84、85岁了。
我从前上海京剧院做总导演，指挥千军万马的，我现在就是糊涂的，什么也不知道，也想不起来了。
这个作品对我来说特别难，我知道它特别难，但是我一定要把它做得很复杂、很强烈。这个作品就是我对父亲的想说的话，想谢谢他。好了，你儿子胡子也白了。
胡子白了，你瞎说的没有。
I think there's a delight in the perception and the enjoyment of objects. Objects are there only if you really see them. If you don't, they don't exist. And art is, to some effect, trying to make others see what you see.
For 35 years, Jay Maisel has been showing us his extraordinary vision of the world.
He was someone that we all looked up to. He was an idol.
Jay's images invariably seem to say, stop and look at this.
It was the summer of 1979. I took an internship with a photographer named Jay Maisel. Jay's home and his studio was a 6-story, 36,000 square foot former bank on Spring Street in the Bowery. When I heard that this building had changed my life and the man who shaped it were moving on, I immediately knew I had to capture Jay's world before it disappeared. Each floor represented a certain partition of his mind.
He had more junk than I did. Everything that was there was useless.
They're estimating 35 truckloads to get out of here.
He sees all these potential in things that no one else would think of. He just has such a sense of play.
what I'm trying to do all the time is to try and see things anew. To see things the way a child would see them. It's like, here comes the world, and I'm trying to get it as it comes towards me. I wanted a place that I would have roots. And this was this building. I had always planned to die here, but I can't. I'm trying to look at it as an adventure.
He was an artist of his generation, a philosopher, and the greatest teacher I ever had.
We do not take pictures. We're taken by pictures.
That's terrific. Okay, the show's the thing, the legendary promoters of rock. And we know about that because we had the greatest promoter of rock who lived here for many years in Marin County, and that was Bill Graham. This film is not only about Bill Graham, it's also about promoters all over the country, but even more so about a gentleman called Frank Barcelona. Frank invented the whole structure of rock and roll concerts throughout the United States, kind of divided them up like the mafia. That's not entirely just a false statement, but they obviously were legitimate, but the whole country was divided up with these incredible people who made rock and roll what it is and gave us show after show that were just incredible. Before there were promoters like Bill Graham, there was vaudeville, where all acts were about 20 minutes. You know how to have a juggler in there. And the concept of having a group come on and play for, like, the Grateful Dead or Led Zeppelin, to play for hours at a time, it was like, well, no one's going to come and see that. But they did come to see that, and they still come to see it. We have many people in this community, so in addition who were rock promoters who worked with Bill Graham, we hope to have them here that evening as well, some featured in the movie. And of course, we will have the directors coming for this film too.
And it's a California premiere.
Campesino was in the clips that you saw, and I would say that the film is very true to that clip. It's about an amateur photographer named Carl Olereich, who goes down to Cuba on a regular basis and shoots photographs of the local people in this small village in Cuba. And the film, just like the clip, it's just gorgeous. It has this beautiful range of colors, warm colors. It has a glow about it. And I think that, you know, if you're a fan of Cuba, photography, travel, you'll want to check this out. And really, it's the kind of film where you're just going to come out of the theater just feeling good. And I think there aren't enough films like that. And we have the California premiere of the film, and we'll be joined by the director, Mia Tate. Our Time Machine, we saw a clip of that film as well, is about the Chinese artist who I think is a real visionary. And the artist is Ma Liang. And it's, you know, actually I don't think the clip does justice to the film. It is a lovely, lovely film. It's co-directed by a local filmmaker, Leo Chang, based in San Francisco, who will be here for the screenings. And I just found this film, and I'm sure Joni agrees with me, just to be delightful, touching. It's about, and it's really fascinating to learn about his artistic practice. You know, you got a glimpse of it in the clip. He makes these incredible mechanical puppets that are just unbelievable, and he manages to like pull them out of thin air and create them out of these found objects and everything. It's really an extraordinary art in the making kind of a film. And then on top of that, you have this really touching relationship between him and his father. And it's not just about the relationship, but he, you know, the artist is actually creating this stage production that is partly an ode to his father, and he wants his father to be a part of this production more than anything. And so the film is really about them trying to come together over the course of the making of this stage production. It's really extraordinary, and I do urge you to come check it out. And we do have the Bay Area premiere of the film.
The final clip you saw for Jay Myself also is a Bay Area premiere. And just seeing the world through Jay Meisel's eyes is just, it's a treat, and it's magical what he sees in things. It's also fascinating to actually watch Jay dismantle his life and work from the last 50 years when he has sold his building and has to move out. The narrator and director Stephen Wilkes will be here to tell you what it really was like to work with Jay. Platform is quite a unique film. It's about 3 Iranian sisters, unique in themselves, the Mansourian sisters, who run a family business confidently throughout the week and train like demons on the side to become wushu champions. Wushu is a combination of wrestling, boxing, and martial arts, and they are fit and tough. Needless to say, it's not given much profile in Iran because it's a women's sport, but these women are leaders in the sport and in their community, and it's just the family is just, it's a touching study on the entire family, a unique family in Iran. A producer will be here, Tahura Abul-Ghassemi will be here from Iran.
Moonlight Sonata, Deafness in 3 Movements, I think is sort of an example of personal filmmaking at its most captivating. The filmmaker, who's Oscar nominated for an earlier work, Irene Taylor Brodsky, she turns the family on her own family, focusing on her 11-year-old son, who went deaf as an infant, and then through cochlear implants was able to regain his hearing, but he sort of lives between 2 worlds of the hearing and the deaf worlds. And he's learning how to play Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata for a performance, which is sort of a torturous process for him and for Irene, but he's doing it. And it's about, you know, their relationship, but also it's an intergenerational story. It's about her son's relationship with her parents, his grandparents also, who have been deaf their whole lives. Irene herself is not deaf. So it's really just this fascinating intergenerational insight into the world of hearing and deafness through the eyes of this one family. And of course, it's also about Beethoven, who went deaf while he was composing Moonlight Sonata. So it's got these many, many layers, which are all great. Irene will be here with us. The film premiered at Sundance, and it's just, I think it's a very well-made film. You'll enjoy it.
And we'll also have access to closed caption devices, and an ASL interpreter will be here for the introduction and the Q&A afterwards. So if you have any friends who have lost their hearing, it's a great film to bring them to.
Memory Games is just a really fun film. If you're a fan of sort of competition docs like Spellbound, or last year there was Inventing Tomorrow, I think this is a really fun, you know, example of that genre. And it takes us to the World Memory Championships in Jakarta, Indonesia, which, you know, hadn't heard a lot about the World Memory Championships until seeing this film. And it is a whole world unto itself. And you start off going like, how in the heck do these people memorize, like, you know, hundreds of numbers in a row, or, you know, capitulate these, you know, words back you know, and let alone like reciting digits of pi and all these incredible things. You start out going, there's no way, how can they do it? I could never imagine doing that. What's great about the film is they kind of break down their technique, and by the end, you still can't really believe you could ever do it, but you at least understand it better. And it's just, it's a lot of fun, great characters, a really great young woman at the center of it, and it's the California premiere.
The next film, Mr. Jimmy, is also a California premiere. And I just have to say, you really don't have to be a Led Zeppelin fan to appreciate Akio Sakurai as Mr. Jimmy. He began honoring Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin at a very young age in Japan, and he doesn't hold back. He's adamant that in order to play this music in a lazy, lackluster way would be inexcusable. He says that the meaning of tribute is not showing yourself at all. There is no me to begin with, because he's been playing only Jimmy Page's music. He has nothing but him. In other words, if you're going to honor someone, you've got to do it completely. And he certainly does. He does not only play a mean guitar. He's been studying since he was, I think it was about 8. He plays exactly the way Jimmy Page plays it. He's meticulous in ensuring that everything he plays, instruments and songs, are exactly as Jimmy Page plays, and everything he wears are exact replicas of what Jimmy Page wears, down to the colors of the embroidery, how they hang on his arm. It's amazing, and it's just fascinating. The filmmaker has done a terrific job with this. Both the director, Peter Dowd, and Mr. Jimmy will be at both screenings. Mr. Jimmy will play a short acoustic set after the film on Friday, May 3rd, and he'll play a full set with vocalist August Young following the screening on Sunday evening. They'll be playing at the Sweetwater. Tickets are already for sale for this. Rolling Stone magazine picked Mr. Jimmy, the film, out of hundreds of films as a must-see. And it may be your only chance to catch him in Marin. I think he's destined to be a star.
He just moved here fairly recently from Japan, didn't he?
Yes, L.A. Moved to L.A., yeah, to make his way. Woodstock, 3 days that defined a generation, is a California premiere. And this film is out just in time to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Woodstock. And it's more about the amazingly peaceful and loving experience of Woodstock, as told by those who were there. With what's going on today, I have to say that it made me yearn for those days of peace and love. And Wavy Gravy and the folks from the hog farm play a pivotal role in this film because they were flown in to do security. They ended up feeding 500,000 people, which, you know, people couldn't get in or out of that area because of the amount of cars that were there. And so the farmers donated food, and the hog farm ended up being able to prepare it and feed all of those people. And Wavy Gravy and Jahanara Romney are going to be here to join in the Q&A afterwards.
Imagine if they all came on cargo bikes. That would have been a lot better.
Perfect.
The last film in this section we're going to talk about is Marianne and Leonard, Words of Love. Any Leonard Cohen fans out there? Okay. So just a warning about this one. You need to buy your tickets immediately for this screening, okay? We only have one screening of it, and so act fast. So this is a portrait of Leonard Cohen and his Norwegian muse, Marianne, of the song So Long Marianne. It's a love story. It's another love story. An ill-fated, tempestuous, yet enduring love story. And it's also a portrait, you know, of Leonard and his work. It's also an interesting, fascinating insight into the artist community on the Greek island of Hydra in the 60s, which I didn't really know anything about till seeing this film. And there's extraordinary archival footage of that community. It's directed by Nick Broomfield. He's one of our, you know, best known, most prolific documentary filmmakers, Kurt and Courtney, the Heidi Fleiss documentary, Tales of the Grim Sleeper. And surprisingly, Nick is not just in this film, because he's in a lot of his films, but he's part of the story this time. And I'll just leave it at that. It premiered at Sundance, and Nick will be here, which is great. And we have the Bay Area premiere.
Thank you. The next series of clips is from our section, The Great Outdoors, and we'll see you back here after these 3 clips.
I hate it when people tell me anything is possible. You know, barriers, they're real. They're real things with real substance, and they actually hurt a lot. When I was 4 years old, I was diagnosed with this really rare eye disease. I remember listening to my brothers out there playing basketball and just really wanting to be a part of that, and really sort of angry because, you know, what was I going to do? The way people react to bad things is that they shut down and they build a lot of crust around themselves, and I'm the first person who does that. And yet something keeps nagging at me, telling me that that's the exact wrong thing to do. Lay it open.
Look where we've come from.
Yeah, look where we come from. Fucking nowhere.
We're up against this very, very difficult terrain. 45-degree slopes, unstable rock. So many miles to make, and we have to constantly be on the move.
It's hard to tell people how hard it is. There's not a trail at all. You're climbing up and down thousands and thousands of vertical feet, and you have got to store food ahead of you. You can't be a couple of days late, or you'll starve.
Let's see the Pete McBride happy dance.
My ankle hurts. My ankle hurts, but I don't care.
What is happening in the canyon? Would hiking show us what was really going on?
This is the most protected place in the world. And yet, what do you think I spend most of my time doing? Is protecting this place.
Most people are completely unaware that something as gigantic, immovable, and as timeless as Grand Canyon can actually be destroyed by the hand of man.
We're trying to offer the average person that below-the-rim experience.
We don't want to see it develop. We don't want to see the Disneyland on the edge of the canyon.
The helicopters are a mess. To drill in and extract something of value for profit, you know, for businesses that are running on the edge of it, benefiting from the park, is kind of crazy. The consequences are enormous.
These are immeasurably valuable.
pristine ecosystems that can teach us and future generations so much about how nature works, about how the world works.
It is impossible to be inside of that place and not be struck by how incredibly small and totally irrelevant we are as human beings. That cuts directly against the grain of how this country thinks of itself. The Grand Canyon has things to say that we as Americans need to hear.
If we can't protect Grand Canyon, what can we protect?
Build that wall, 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 build that wall.
The Rio Grande is underappreciated, and I keep saying that because I mean it, and I want people to know what's out here.
I don't think anyone that doesn't have some connection to the region has any idea how remote that area is and how rugged and inhospitable.
I think our purpose in all this is to tell that region's story and wildlife's story.
I wish that everybody who wanted to build an actual physical wall could come and see this place first, because I think if they came and saw it and realized what the wall was going through and what it would do, it would have a profound impact on their way of thinking.
In December 2017, we're embarking on a 1,200-mile journey from El Paso to the Gulf of Mexico along the Rio Grande River using horses, mountain bikes, and canoes. The purpose is to see these landscapes before a border wall is constructed and to document those landscapes, to explore how an actual physical 30-foot wall built on the U.S. side of the river would impact wildlife dispersals, water access, private property rights, immigration, public lands, border culture.
This journey and this project is about fact-finding and figuring out what are the impacts of a proposed contiguous 1,200-mile border wall.
There's a lot of misconceptions. It's really easy to hold views about far-off issues and that not only don't affect you, but don't affect anyone that you know or have met.
Everything can be changed. Everything. From the environment, from the views, from the people who live here. Everything can be changed.
It's interesting to see these three clips together and how interconnected they are and how insignificant any one species can be and what a disastrous effect it can have. But it also shows, certainly evident by the first clip of The Weight of Water, which is the closing night film of DOCLANDS, which will be in this theater on the Saturday night, how one individual can do so much. So the subject of The Weight of Water is Eric Weihenmayer, and he is an incredible man. I've never met him, but just from what I've seen and what I've read and saw on the internet, he reminds me of our dear friend, and I say our because I think he was everyone's, the kind of essence that Robin Williams had. He's truly a humble man who believes, as he says, let me see if I can find that here. What's within you is stronger than what's in your way. And as a blind man, he has accomplished incredible things. In this particular film, he is canoeing, kayaking. You can tell I'm an adventurer. I can make it here to Dominican with no problem. He travels 277 miles in the Colorado River, the whole length of the Grand Canyon, as a blind man. But he's also the first blind man to conquer Mount Everest, and he's done so many incredible things with his life, and primarily the gift that he gives us with his life as a speaker, as an author. And this film is directed by Michael Brown, who's an award-winning filmmaker, probably one of the best outdoor film directors in the world. He's climbed Mount Everest 5 times, and he's worked with Eric before with Farther Than the Eye, the award-winning film, on their climb of Mount Everest.
And just so you know, these films come out just in time to celebrate the centennial of the Grand Canyon National Park. So we're doing our own bit of celebrating with these incredibly gorgeous films.
And Eric will be here.
And Eric will be here. And Michael Brown.
On the stage.
Yes, yes, that's true. The River and the Wall, that trailer there, again, these are such timely films, and the filmmakers are so anxious for them to get out here so people have a true feeling for what can happen to those lands. Producer Hillary Pierce will be here for the California premiere here of The River and the Wall.
No problem. And I just think that film, which focuses on the Rio Grande, couldn't be more timely. I mean, as all we hear about the border almost constantly, this is a different take. It's really what's happening on the ground throughout this 1,200-mile stretch and how it affects wildlife as well as people. So I think it's couldn't be more timely, and it's a very experiential film like these other two. Sea of Shadows is very different. This film has got pretty much everything: Mexican drug cartels, Chinese mafia, a crusading famous Mexican TV journalist, you name it, it's in the film. It's basically a real-life eco-thriller, I would say. So I kind of think of it as The Cove meets Cartel Land, if you've seen those films. It's extremely intense. And the stakes are really very high in terms of an endangered species, the vaquita, which is the world's smallest whale. There's only 10 of them left in the world in the Sea of Cortez.
Or they were at the end of the film.
Right, even fewer now, I think. This film, Sea of Shadows, won the Audience Award at Sundance, and we are excited to hear that one of the subjects of the film, Andrea Crosta, will be here.
We're hoping. Thank you, Ramona.
Yeah. And then next film, Serengeti Rules. I was thinking about this film sitting down there, and I was like, why do I like this film so much? And it's because, you know, one of the things I love about documentary is You know, this is a film based on an acclaimed book by Sean Carroll about 5 scientists. This is a book that I'd probably pick up in a bookstore and want to read and never quite get around to it. The film basically does a masterful job of taking the book, the characters in the book, the stories, and turning it into a real visual experience, and breaking down the science and making it totally understandable and engaging, and really making of these characters people you care about and are fascinated by. And it really just takes all the puzzle pieces and fits them together, and it's just extremely well made. It's a beautiful film. And one of the 5 scientists, Mary Power, is going to be here, so that's especially exciting.
We've also got the world premiere of I, Mariposa, which again is centered on what's happening at the borderlands. These filmmakers have worked incredibly hard to get this film out now, because as we speak, the work is beginning on the border wall between Texas and Mexico, and this film is about women who are working to save the land of the National Butterfly Center. The director, Krista Schuyler, will be here, and one of the subjects of the film as well. We've also got a program of shorts called Chasing the Beauty and the Sublime, and it consists of 5 films that contain unique ways of life from around the world that are all shot in glorious cinematography. And they're not just a feast for your eyes, but this is a program where I wish I could hand out headphones for everybody who comes to it, because the sound and music mix is just incredible, especially in Tree Line, which is the longest film of that series. It's the whole program is exquisite. That is the end of the films. Before we go to Q&A, I would just like to share a quote from great filmmaker Agnes Varda, who died of breast cancer on Friday at the age of 90. I still get teary-eyed. We had so hoped to honor her at the festival this year, but she said, "Films are beautiful, but documentaries put you at peace with the world by making the world more understandable and by making people come closer to you." Thank you.
We have 2 mic runners, and we're going to start here on the left. Is that correct? So do we have any people who have questions? Please raise your hand. Maybe we'll start.
And we'll be around at the reception too, so if you've got questions, you can ask us anything.
All right.
Oh.
Yes, we will.
Possibly.
She
wanted to know if any of the films were going to be coming back here at the Rafael later in the year.
One can expect, the more commercial, popular ones may very well wind up here. As last year we showed Welcome, Won't You Be My Neighbor, RBG, Free Solo, those kinds of things. But unfortunately, and that's another reason we created DOCLANDS, even though we have the opportunity to show so many documentaries at the Rafael, sometimes single shows, sometimes theatrical runs, documentaries at Mill Valley, many of them do not get a theatrical release.
To your right.
You mentioned something about buying a packet of 6 movies or things like that. Can you describe those? How you buy them and what options are available?
Go for it, Alyssa.
Yeah, so that is our DOCLANDS early bird ticket packages. Basically, it's just a set of 6 tickets that come in a pack that you can buy in bulk before 10 o'clock tonight. And then that way, whenever you go to purchase tickets tomorrow, it'll just be 6 vouchers sitting there, and you can use them for whatever films that you wish.
Thank you, Alyssa. Yeah. Other questions?
How much are the 6 packs, Alyssa?
Jeremy?
They're not much.
Yes, they're
$71.
Thank you, 71.
I became very much more aware of documentaries, it seemed to me, in the George Bush Jr. time. It seemed like there were a lot of political documentaries, and was that just something that I became aware of, or was that actually happening, kind of like a peak moment for documentaries?
You know, I can't really say if that particular period in itself, documentaries have become much more popular gradually. And even theatrically, other than last year, I think the peaks were, I don't know if it was during Bush or during Obama, where it seemed to me almost every documentary we showed at the Rafael was doing well. Ken, do you have any thoughts on that?
Not really.
All right. Yeah, so I think they peaked around maybe that time, then they kind of withdrew a little bit, and then now they're picking up again. Other questions?
I would just say documentaries as a theatrical experience really, just in the last 5 years, has really peaked. And coincidentally, also with the rise of streaming services, it still continues to be a highly theatrical experience. So what better way to experience a theatrical art form than in a theater? So
yes.
We concur with that.
One more question, I think.
Do you pick which film you want to see, or do you just come for that particular film? Do we have to register for certain?
If you buy a six-pack, you're talking about?
Yeah.
No, you get to choose what films you want to see.
Okay, so you just have to come early.
Yeah,
With the six-pack, you need to buy that before 10 o'clock tonight to get that special price, and then you go online and you use the vouchers to choose the films you want to screen.
Oh, so you still have to choose which film.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That's
and
my question.
anytime you can take your chances and come to the theater, just to the box office before the screening, especially with the larger venues, then you're pretty well guaranteed to get in. But they do sell out at times, so we do urge you to buy in advance.
We're working on an artificial intelligence thing that could read your mind and tell and tell us what you'd like to see.
So thank you very much.
Haven't got there yet, though.
Everyone for coming, and we'll see you at the reception.